And knowing that we're moving into these beautiful seasons, I'm enjoying just opening up the doors in the evening and just knowing that there's the freshness of that breeze coming in, and then just knowing that there's that freshness in our life that's happening. And I was driving out the road, have a dirt road, lots of rocks, and I'm driving, and the one gal who's a couple doors down, I had the most glorious spiritual experience as I was walking one morning, and there's this beautiful Bach and Romanov piano. And so imagine these honeysuckle bushes and these beautiful lawns and beautiful fruit trees, and it was like in a movie. So there I was, I had stepped out from a movie. And if we notice our lives, what's moving in our lives, we have wonderful music that's happening. We just know that people outside these walls are having a spiritual experience and that we're taking that with us. So just don't be surprised if you hear some piano on a morning walk sometime. You just never know what's going to spill out and spill over. And I'm also celebrating a New Year. It's a Happy New Year, or Rosh Hashanah, with some of my friends who are Jewish. And it's a declaration because here we celebrate all faiths, and knowing that the Science of Mind philosophy, which is a guide for spiritual living, can really work with all faiths because it's a philosophy and a faith and a way of life. And what there is there's a new declaration, there's a new resolve where we can all nurture kindness and we can nurture love and we can revisit our highest resolutions for our life. So we're kind of just beyond the half-year point, and we can look at the resolutions and our high resolve, and we can also be consistent in our spiritual practice. So I invite us to just know that we're open to having piano play as we're walking amongst all the beauty of nature. And as I look at the new year, a New Year's resolution, it's something that sometimes goes in one year and out the other. Yes? One in one ear and out the other. And then I've also heard of the New Year's prayer. It says, "My affirmative prayer is a fat bank account and a thin body. Please don't mix it up like you did last year." And I only have one resolution, is to rediscover the difference between wants and needs. May I have all I need and want all that I have. And there's another way to look at New Year's resolutions, is every year I make a resolution to change myself. This year I have a resolution to be myself. Yeah. So we can all wish ourselves a happy new year and know that there's a new beginning, even though it's September, even though we've thrown open the windows on that freshness. And our book of the month also talks about this. It's by Wayne Muller, and it's a life of being, having, and doing enough, and to know that we're sufficient as we are. And if we set out on our resolutions, if we set out from that place of enoughness, and it's like we have a thermostat. So now we're opening the windows of our minds, of our life, of our feelings, of our actions. We're opening those windows. And we can look at having that inner thermostat and to know what our needs are, to know that we're provided for, to know that we're being and experiencing having enough. And he talks about resetting our inner thermostat. So he says, when we're unable to clearly identify what is enough of anything, it can feel more and more difficult to recognize when to stop striving or grasping in our desperate pursuit of everything. So we can know what really matters in our beingness. He says, unless we feel some certainty that our work, our gift, our time, our relationships are, at the end of the day, enough, we may never feel permission to stop. So today we can give ourselves permission. And it says he says most houses have a working thermostat that regulates the work of the heater, ensuring that it pumps precisely enough heat into the house. And when this device informs the heater that our home has reached a sufficiently comfortable temperature, the heater can stop actively putting out heat. It powers itself down to standby until it's needed again. So whenever that temperature drops, it says without a functional thermostat, the heater would just keep heating and heating until either boiler finally exploded or the house burnt down. So we know that we have that inner thermostat that we're guided in having a life of being, having, and doing enough. And so we have these signals in our life, whether that's from our body. We have those signals that whether it is from that fat bank account or that thin body, we have those signals that we're on track, that we're on course. And we can have that reliability that there is, yes, an inner thermostat that we can make those adjustments. And we all have a different story of what that is for us. Does anyone have a story? A story about our life? Yes? We all have some sort of story about our body. We have a story about our relationships. We have a story about our prosperity. We have a story about our inner peace. We have our story about the wonderfulness in winning Senior Olympics on the basketball team, which we honored. We're going to have to have you stand again. Mickey Sutton. For those of us that didn't see this last week, I think we can have autographed copies. So some of us have a story, some of us make headline news here. So we do. We have extra copies in my office, and feel free to come by and get an autographed version of the Albuquerque Senior Women's Basketball Team capturing the gold. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, I'm so glad you're here, Mickey. Wow, what a great example. So we all have stories, and we have strategies, much like a basketball team. We all have strategies. We have how-tos in our life, and sometimes we need to shift our story, or we may need a little coaching in some area, or we may have a little more teamwork in some area, a little more openness. And what we may want to do is free up some energy of that freshness, sort of like opening up those windows. And to be fit, whether we're feeling strong, well, whether we want sometimes to be a little bit more organized. Sometimes it's good to pair up with some friends and feel a little bit more organized in our life and clear the way for some more freshness. So some of us may say, I feel great. Some of us may feel, I don't feel so great, or, hey, I'm big boned and I've tried 3,000 things and I'm not able to lose weight, but I could feel even more great. I could do whatever, I've tried everything. In some areas we may say, whew, I've tried everything, right? And what we know is that we can be and do and have our enoughness, like that inner thermostat, that we can be enough in those areas right now. And Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith encourages us, he says, be willing to change. You cannot have anything that you are not willing to become in consciousness. So we're all being those spiritual qualities more fully. We're becoming that place of conscious awareness through which spirit resides and has that freshness in life. So are you willing to have a high resolve, to have a new year beginning today? Have that high resolve and those new resolutions, and really to be our true selves. Are you ready? Yes? Oh, good, because we're on a journey and I'm taking you with me. Personal growth leader Tony Robbins offers 6 human needs. So, we grow up with some needs. We all have some sorts of needs. And so many of us want to be certain. We want to have certainty in life and have that reliability and stability and knowing that we're on course. And we want to have a sense of certainty. And then also we like to have a little sense of variety or some uncertainty. We like to have some... Now, how many of us like surprises? Yes? No? Only those that we like to create or choose, right? We may not want to be surprised. Like sometimes a surprise could be a problem. So if we look at what variety that we can have, like who knew I was going to hear piano music walking down the same path, the very same path I walk almost every day in the morning and the night. And then we also like to have a sense of meaning or some significance. We like to have some meaning. And then there's also the love and the connection with the divine, that sense of love that resides in our heart at all times that we're just tapped into and tuned into. And that from that we grow. And that from that we also contribute. We contribute to our world. So how is it that some people may be sacrificing their life or may be serving their life or may be moving in a way that's of service and we get out of our own sense of self because we can look beyond to that greater yet to be? While another person might, harm a stranger. And today we're going to be singing God Bless America, which is in lieu of the peace song today, just knowing that there's that blessing of being in a beautiful place, that we live, that we're living in that beauty, and that we're honoring and remembering those who were involved in 9/11 and around the world who have been involved in tragedies like that. So how come that happens? How come things like that happen out of fear? And then how come some things move us to tears and joy, like a song, God Blessed America? What creates someone like a Charles Manson or a Nelson Mandela? Where we all have these same principles, we all have the same life energy that runs through us. And what is the force that drives us, that spiritual force that shapes our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, that shapes our lives and those qualities of our lives, and ultimately our destinies? What is that energy? What is that for us in this now moment? And while each of us are unique, we all have the same nervous system. We all have the same system that we function on. We all come equipped with the same type of equipment. And we all have that in common. We all have a nervous system which runs us, which is our body, which informs various parts of decisions that we make. We all have that informs us. And we have all of that behavior that is informed by those thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And then we have actions from that. And while each human being is unique, we know that we have varying levels of these 6 needs. And sometimes needs go unmet. And so it's a good thing to anticipate what our own needs are for our own lives and for our families too, as we look at our extended families. So all behavior is an attempt to meet those needs, these 6 needs. One is certainty, and we can have the assurance that sometimes we're avoiding some pain or that we're gaining pleasure. So we have some certainty in our life, which we're moving toward that which delights us, that which moves us to tears of joy by music or journaling or sharing with a friend, whatever that is. And then with regard to uncertainty or variety, we have sometimes that need for transformation, that need for some new stimuli, to go on a new path, to go on a new walk, to explore some new relationships. And then significance, we want to have that feeling of our uniqueness being shared. So we all have that uniqueness and those gifts that we share. And with regard to growth, we have an expansion of that capacity of who we are. We have that ever-expanding nature of energy which is expanding. So we have new understandings, we have new capabilities. And then we also make a contribution to ourselves. We have that sense of contribution and whatever that self-care might be, that contribution to others, where we can be a place, a safe harbor where they can hang out, people can hang out. And to know that there's that commitment of oneness. And thank you, Grace, for sharing the commitment of oneness and love that's within your heart. Thank you for that. Thank you. Let's give Grace another. Wow. So in areas we can avoid pain, and then we can also gain pleasure. We can also look at adopting and living this philosophy of faith, whether it's celebrating that in a new way, in a new year, in a new beginning. We know that we have these universal principles and practices which work well for us. And so variety also helps us feel alive and more engaged. I don't think we'd want the same meal every meal, would you? Yes? That might help with the fat bank account and the thinness, but... And so next there's a desire for significance, and it's just a belief in ourselves that our life has significance, that we bring value. We bring value to this world, and we have the connection with the divine, which we're already tapped into, and that there's fulfillment happening. And it's achieved through whatever those patterns of living are, and that we can really focus on 2 spiritual needs. Just 2. This is our homework. We can focus on 2 spiritual needs, just to know that there's that continuous growth. There's that sense of being in the presence, being as the presence and the power of love and light and joy that we are, and moving forward in peace and extending our grateful heart, we can continuously grow. And then we also have a need to contribute beyond ourselves and to do this in a consistent way that serves our higher purpose and that serves others. So we can be consistent in our spiritual practice as we use these principles. And we can look at what might be disempowering in our life. We can also look at what might be empowering in our life, and to have that shift happen and to move in that direction as empowerment and to be of that lasting fulfillment. So which of these 6 needs do we want to focus on? Which of these 6 needs do we value most? And there's a balance, so we're always moving in harmony and balance. I have a girls' night out that's about every other month, and it's these folks in Corrales that get together at a beautiful home and have some wonderful eats and treats. And the next gal who's going to host it is outside of Corrales. It's going to be in Rio Rancho. So they're saying, oh no, we're going to have to carpool to Rio Rancho. And what's beautiful is to look at these folks as each and every one is expressing their unique needs and their uniqueness, their gifts, and that they have significance in the love and connection, even though we don't get together too often, but there's that love and that connection that shows up, however frequently. And that people are making a contribution. We were having this wonderful dinner and beautiful view, and we ended up at a city council meeting. And I'm not real political, but we felt like we were advocating for some animals, and just by showing up, our presence, we were being advocates. And so who knew in the middle of this girls' night out that we would be helping out with some animals? And it was just sweet because we made a contribution. I didn't go there. Much like the music that played in the morning, I had no idea that would be on the path, but we were open to making a difference and moving from whatever was happening as being disempowered, which appeared to be a disempowerment of a process, into something that became, I guess, more empowering because they had some solutions that were proposed. So there's different ways. To look at these needs. And in light of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, we can revisit the high resolutions that we have for our lives. So does anyone have any feelings around New Year's resolutions? Any feelings? Yes? It's a good time to revisit them, yes? To revisit? Does anyone remember what we set out on this year to do? Or are we looking forward to next year? Yes? Next year. And it's not too soon to begin. And there's a neuroscientist and New York Times bestselling author, Joe Dispenza, his work talks about understanding resolutions and how to keep them. How to have them have our highest resolve that's possible. And he says that there's a plan really starts with a good intention. And that's what we teach and live and breathe and move in here, is a good plan starts with a good intention. So the easy answer is to simply do that. Set out with a good intention and to clear our thought. And we can ask ourselves, maybe we want to lose weight, or maybe we want to get out of debt, or maybe we want to get organized. The answer needs to be clear and specific. Much like opening up those windows, we need to have it be clear and have a mental picture. Have that mental picture of what we want to achieve. And it could be that we're a messy person. I remember my mom had a sign that said, "Bless this mess." And sometimes it might be on the dishes, it might be on the laundry, bless this mess. And so I kind of take after her, not being so much of a domestic goddess, but there's kind of a zen, when I get in the mood of doing the zen. So I need to start with a picture, really, a big picture, because if I'm not paying attention, I really need to figure out what organization looks like to me. And I have this other affair with paper, too, and I'm so happy to go digital when I can, because paper is just like all over. And so perhaps organization is a clean stack. It's even though I have piles, I may know where things are. It's a clean desk with papers perhaps stacked and placed in a correct little cubby hole area where I know to find it. It may not be a matter where I put it, but it's a matter where I can find it, right? And I love my Google Calendar. Maybe I need to do some things with my Google Calendar and clean that up, or clear out space where I can have more of that freshness in my life and block out some amounts of time. And so our brain may not know the difference between that mental picture or what's real. So that as I have that mental picture or that clear thought about getting organized, about whatever those goals are, Dr. Joe Dispenza says, your intention was clear enough that, well, maybe not clean enough, but your intention was clear enough. And by the way, when we're in this teaching, things manifest in our lives. We move from kind of a cultural mentality that things are happening to us. And then we begin to manifest things, and then we have things that are happening to that thing. And then we have things that move as us and through us. And so we move through different models of consciousness and layers of consciousness. And so I manifested a dishwasher, which I hadn't had for a year and a half. And it was actually already there. It was in the garage of my landlady. But all we need was a fixture to hook it up, and all they needed to do was open up the garage and remember that it was there and dust it off. So you never know what's going to happen to have things be a lot easier. So back to Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe Dispenza says, your intention was clear enough that you began the process of rewiring your brain, and maybe rewiring this dishwasher, and installing the neurological hardware to look like the event has already occurred, just by thought alone. And so that's what the current research is that by those thoughts, just by thoughts, it's a vital step that we can, in essence, have a rehearsal. I know here we say that life is not a dress rehearsal, but that we can have this mental rehearsal. So if I want to become more organized, then I can imagine myself being successful at that. So I can review what choices, what behaviors, what actions, what experiences that I don't want to have as well. And then I can review what I do want to have. And sometimes resolutions for the new year or this new beginning right now, sometimes resolutions are a process of unlearning and a process of learning. And so that as I think of that in areas of my life, whether it's with regard to health, there's things that, I want to unlearn. And then, there's things I do want to learn. Or any other areas, if it's relationships. There's things that I want to unlearn and want to be more open to learning. Same thing with my area of affluence. There's things that I want to unlearn, some habits, and I want to learn that which poises me for success and that infinite abundance of the divine. And for inner peace, too, there's things that I want to unlearn, and then things that I do want to learn. And so resolutions are a process of unlearning and learning. So sometimes we might do that with exercise, or we might be moving in a new way. We might do that with nutrition. We might do that in getting organized. We can only hope. And then we can also do that in helping others. We can learn something new. We can have more family time. We can quit whatever that habit is. We can enjoy life more. So we can remind ourselves to maybe enjoy dessert occasionally instead of not every night, if that serves us better, if that serves our energy level better. We might know that we have those nerve cells that fire together. We all have that same system that we're well equipped with to make these choices and to listen to the information that we receive and make those highest and best choices. And so to know that we're already wired for success. We're wired for that foundation of success. And so we can set out that clear intention. And we know that with that intention also comes an emotional investment. So we're investing in ourselves and knowing that we're clearing the way and opening up the windows to have those emotions flow with what resonates with us best. So chances are we may have very personal reasons for wanting to spend more family time, wanting to share more time with friends. We may want to laugh more. We may want to lighten up. We may want to be in touch with someone we haven't been in touch with in a while. And what that can do is it can really create some elevated energy, and it can spur us along to transformation. So the feelings behind these intentions, create that elevated energy for that shift, which helps pull us out of where we are. And we can create that elevated emotional state by, for instance, giving our body a sampling of something that's delicious, giving our body a sampling of whatever that future is, putting out that mental image, giving our whole way of living a different mental image, and just preparing for that new experience. And knowing that we're already prepared, that we're already well equipped. So what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes for just a moment and to think of an area in your life where you would like to have a higher resolve and that there's a new beginning. And from this place, we will just move into prayer as we can sense it and feel it and know it and touch it and taste it. And then that's the purpose of our affirmative prayer, that there is this infinite energy which is flowing. And it is filled with so much light and love and pure potentiality and possibility, knowing that there is this field of the divine essence. There is that which is so amazingly at one with the source. And that source is of the oneness which just flows fully and freely, and it allows itself to be fully expressed. It is from that place of full and creative expression that there is the love intelligence and that which is the divine light, which is shining and sharing itself so brightly and brilliantly in this moment, in this unified field, in this unification and connection of spirit, that knowing that there is already this place where spirit resides in our heart, in our mind, in our soul, in our body, and that which stirs our soul is so uplifting, and knowing that there is that place which it knows itself, the livingness, the living essence, the knowingness of spirit. And it shows up in beautiful ways as radiant health and vivaciousness and vitality. It is this energy which flows. It is the body of spirit. There is well-being. There is that which is the divine-filled light and love, which is that's filled with our bodies of this movement, this divine movement already. And I know that there is the beautiful relationship with the divine and the connection, which just ripples out and spills over into our connections with our significant people in our lives. And knowing that there is meaning and significance, which shows up out of conversations, out of our beautiful spiritual practices, knowing that in those quiet moments, in the moments of stillness, that we draw upon that wellspring of life. So knowing that there is wellness and wholeness and that it is so good and very, very good in this moment, right here and now. I know that there is harmonizing prosperity and good and affluence, knowing that abundance shows up as radiant health, abundance shows up as beauty, which just we can contribute and give and share fully and freely of the creativity, of the resourcefulness, of the wholeness that's in our lives. And knowing that we are backed by spirit and that the divine source truly is all, and that is which is we are tapped into and tuned into at all times. And I know that we move forward in tranquility in the fullness of spirit, and that there is joy, there is peace, there is that exuberant energy which just flows. And so I'm grateful for this divine moment and this realization that life is good. And so I'm grateful as I share, and knowing that this creativity and creative medium just carries forward this beautiful word, and that it just is filled with the positive solutions of this divine life. And so it is.